morning everyone. Troy Papworth, Superintendent for North West Metro Specialist Operations Division. I'm here today to talk to you about 4 protests that we know of occurring in the CBD on Saturday. These protests have a mixture of extremist right-wing ideology and left-wing and opposing views. And due to the violence that we saw on the streets of Melbourne 2 weeks ago and our intelligence pointing towards these groups again intent on coming together and clashing, police have had no choice but to put together a significant police response to make sure that we're protecting community safety and keeping these 2 groups apart and keeping violence off the streets of Melbourne. We've got groups here who are coming together with extremist right-wing ideology. We can't discount the fact that like we saw 2 weeks ago, that the National Socialist Network will be attending these protests and speaking. And we also have similarly extremist views with left-wing and opposing ideology. We saw violence on the streets of Melbourne 2 weeks ago, and that's something that we just can't tolerate. What we're seeing is these people using the excuse of lawful and peaceful protest to come together and commit violence against one another. And to be honest, Victoria Police had enough of it. It's gutless. It's using the excuse of lawful protest as a reason to come together and be violent. Victoria Police has and always will support people coming together for lawful and peaceful protest. But that's not what we're seeing here. For example, we saw people 2 weeks ago wearing motocross armour in the CBD. Now that's something clearly they're not here for lawful and peaceful protest. They've come prepared for violence on the streets. And that's something that we won't tolerate. There'll be a significant number of police present in the CBD on Saturday, supported by our public order response teams, our mounted police, our critical incident response teams. And because of the risk of violence that we anticipate and that we did see 2 weeks ago, Victoria Police will be applying for a designated area under the Control of Weapons Act, which gives police extra powers to search people for weapons and also demand people to remove face coverings. Anyone who's looking to come to the city with intention of committing violence on our streets can expect to be swiftly dealt with by Victoria Police, arrested, and they may potentially spend time in a jail cell if that's appropriate. We would ask anyone coming into the city to protest on the weekend to come in and protest lawfully and peacefully. And if there are people out there with opposing ideologies, just stay away from them. You know, just stay separate. Let other people have their protest in the city, but make sure you're protesting in a lawful and peaceful way. For anyone else who's coming into the city on the weekend, we want to reassure them that there will be a significant number of police in the city to make sure that we're keeping the community safe, and just plan for extended delays and plan for extra time to get in and out of the city, knowing that there will be some protests in the city. Happy for some questions.
You mentioned 4 groups that you know of. What are those 4 groups?
So those 4 groups have a mixture of both right-wing and left-wing extremist ideologies. Some of those groups don't necessarily agree with each other within their ideologies, so you know, we will expect to see some friction in between groups, and we do expect to see groups with opposing ideologies coming together, and we've got intelligence to suggest that they are intent on trying to come together.
But do those groups have names?
Their names at this stage they're looking at is the names of their protests. They're their group names at this stage.
What are their group names?
So we have one group, Save Australia protest. There is another group there which is Australia Unites Against Government Corruption protest. And we also know that there's several groups coming together from the left-wing side that we know that there's people in there from the Black People's Union, from the Campaign Against Racism and Fascism and other left-wing aligned issue motivated groups.
And you've tried to get in touch, or police have tried to get in touch with each of these ahead of this?
Yes, we have. We have had some success in engaging with some of these groups, and some of them just flat out won't engage with Victoria Police.
And what's the engagement been like? Cooperative?
Some of it is cooperative, but then some of it's not. And because of that risk that we have some groups who will not engage, who are intent on coming together and causing conflict. That's the reason we have such a significant Victoria Police presence, and also the reason that we've applied for a designated area in the CBD.
Can you give us an idea of how many resources will be here and what sort of approach, if anything, is changing from 11 days ago when we saw similar protests?
So we don't talk to specific numbers around Victoria Police for operational reasons, but the community can expect to see more police than they saw on the streets 2 weekends ago. That's how seriously we're taking this.
Why more?
Look, what we saw on the streets 2 weeks ago was violence on our streets, and it's something that we just can't tolerate. So we are committed to maintaining community safety in the streets of Melbourne, so we want to make sure that we've got the most amount of police that we can get in and make sure that that doesn't happen.
Are some resources going to have to be deployed from Port Punker to Melbourne to help with this?
No, I can give assurance that the operation in Port Punker is our primary focus. That is our first and foremost priority. But the police that we're bringing in to resource this event, we're resourcing them from right across the state and including our specialist resources. But a lot of these are police who are coming in on their days off, on days where, you know, in the last 2 weeks we've had funerals for 2 of our fallen comrades. These are police that should be resting after a busy and stressful job, reconnecting with the family in light of what has been a terrible tragedy for Victoria Police. But they know that this is the right thing to do, and they're coming in on their days off to make sure that the community is safe in the CBD.
2 weeks ago, we saw that police managed to keep opposing forces apart, but then we saw far-right demonstrators splinter off and then attack Camp Sovereignty. How will you make sure that something like that doesn't happen again? Are there measures in place to stop groups from splintering?
So Camp Sovereignty and the incident that occurred at Camp Sovereignty is obviously foremost in our mind, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen again. I won't go into our operational considerations, but absolutely that will be a focus on for us.
Why were police not there 2 weeks ago?
Police, at the time, we didn't have intelligence to suggest that there was going to be any issues at Camp Sovereignty. So at the time, police weren't there. We were focused on other operational matters in the city and maintaining peace in the city.
So you had 30 men dressed in black approaching that camp. Police were simply unaware that it was happening?
That's correct, yes.
So will there be a police presence at Camp Sovereignty this weekend, this Saturday?
Like I said, I won't go into our operational considerations on how we're structuring up our people, but Camp Sovereignty is absolutely front of mind for us in making sure that people are safe. We don't condone violence against any particular groups, and we don't want to see that happen again in the city. So it will be front of mind for us in making sure that we are well resourced and well deployed across the CBD to address any sort of violence.
I can read between the lines of what you're saying, but might it not be reassuring to people who might be at Camp Sovereignty to know that there will be a police presence there to save a repeat of the violence they copped last 2 weeks ago?
We've had ongoing communications with those at Camp Sovereignty and had some really good discussions with them, and I can give them the assurance that the safety of Camp Sovereignty is foremost in our mind.
What kind of violence did we see 2 weeks ago?
So during the protest, we saw opposing groups of opposing ideology coming together, clashing. We saw people throwing projectiles, not only at opposing protest groups, but also at police. Bottles, fruit, liquid being thrown at police, and that's something we simply will not tolerate, both towards our police and towards anyone in the community. Everyone has the right to feel safe, and thus we have applied for a designated area which gives police the power to search for weapons inside that designated area.
Were any arrests made?
Yes, there were.
How many?
I don't have those figures specifically to hand, but we can get them for you.
I think in the press release it said 20.
Yep. So There were a mixture of people arrested on the day. There were a mixture of people who have been arrested subsequent for offences that were reported to us subsequent, and investigations that are still ongoing with respect to that day.
So could I just clarify quickly on those numbers? 20 have been arrested either on the day or since. Some of those 20 have been charged?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've had a number of police charged, sorry, correction, a number of people charged on the day. We've had a number of people charged subsequent, all for offending that's occurred on the day.
And that total is 20 arrested. Some of the 20 have been charged.
So we had a number of people arrested on the day for offences. We had a number of people who were asked to leave the city under breach of the peace powers. And then we've had a further 7 people arrested with respect to offences that we've detected afterwards.
Those members of the National Socialist Network who were arrested, face court bail, they've been banned from entering the city. Do you expect them to turn up?
Look, we are well aware of who they are, and we'll be making sure that we brief our people on who they are and what those bail conditions are. It is only 7 members of that group. There are other people there that we are constantly keeping in mind and that may turn up to the city who do not have those bail conditions.
Do you know the boundaries of the designated area at this stage? Yes,
Absolutely. There's Spring Street, Flinders Street, Spencer Street and Latrobe Street.
The orders to remove face coverings, those are lawful orders, so people, if they are told to remove face coverings, they have to do so, correct?
That's correct, or they must leave the area. If they refuse to remove their face covering and refuse to leave the area, then they have committed an offence. But if they do remove their face covering or they do leave the designated area, then there's no offence.
It's almost a year since the state government announced that it was going to make law that at protests you couldn't wear masks. It's still not law. How much easier would it be for police if that law came into, or if it became law?
I guess if, and not wanting to speculate on the legislation, we've been working really solidly with government on those proposed laws. What it would mean for Victoria Police is that we wouldn't be applying for designated areas, but we apply for designated areas when we feel that there's a risk to community and there's a risk of clash and a risk of weapons. So when those designated areas are in place, for us operationally, it will be the same premise. But if those laws do come into place, then it would mean that we won't be applying for a designated area for people to remove face covering.
Just on that last month, the state opposition said that if elected, it would try and create a protest register system. If that were to be implemented, how would that make police's job different or easier ahead of events like the one we're expecting on Saturday?
Well, I'm not across the details of what that's been proposed. Victoria Police is on the record for saying that we don't support a permit system. Whilst we do have some engagement with some people in the protest organising space, some people we don't, and those people are unlikely to apply for protest permits anyway. So we're on the record for saying we don't support protest permits.
Is there growing worry around people shifting to extreme ideologies on both ends of the spectrum, and any proactive policing around stopping people being radicalised?
There's always a risk around people radicalising towards any extremist views, and we see that play out in a number of different spheres. Victoria Police engages with a number of people in terms of how we can prevent that. In terms of what that is, I don't want to go into that in this meeting, but absolutely there are proactive measures being undertaken.
You've said that we can expect that there'll be more police at this protest than 2 weeks ago. Is that based on intel that you're expecting these protests to be larger?
Yes, yeah, we are expecting these protest groups to be quite large, and we're also taking into account the levels of violence that we saw. So we just want to make sure that there's enough police there for us to be able to deal with that.
Do you think some people are turning up just to incite violence? They're not actually there with the ideologies or to protest in general?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And we've had enough of that. People using lawful protest as a veiled excuse to come to the city and commit violence against each other is simply not on, and we won't stand for it. And anyone who does do that can expect to be dealt with swiftly by police and fronted to the court.
I feel like police have said for years that it won't be tolerated. Violence at protests won't be tolerated, but it keeps happening. It just keeps happening. Where do you think, what do you think's amiss here, that people keep doing this, the police keep trying to stop it? How does it keep happening when police say that you won't allow it to happen?
I think that our actions speak for ourselves. We actually go out and we arrest people. We front them before the court when we arrest them at the time, or we have subsequent offences committed and reported to us afterwards. So, you know, our record of arresting people and holding them accountable for their crimes is evident.
And there's still a lot of people you're seeking over the protests of a couple of weeks ago?
I won't go into how many people, but the investigations are ongoing. Yes.
Pro-Palestinian protesters have indicated that they'll also still be going ahead with their Sunday rally. Is it your understanding that that's the 100th rally that they've had in the CBD since it's all started?
I believe it is up there. By our count, it's pretty close to that, yes. And our indication is that, yes, they will be going ahead with their protest on the weekend. And that in itself also is evidence that Victoria Police supports lawful and peaceful protests. We've been working with that group for a long time.
Is it helpful, do you think, that Thomas Sewell is behind bars this weekend and not there to lead the NSN?
It's definitely not unhelpful. Having someone of that stature behind bars in the lead up to what we feel is a risk of NSN attending again absolutely minimises that risk, but we're also well aware of other people within that group who are willing to step up into that person's shoes and take that role.
So to be clear, are you expecting, because I think there were 150 members of, well, neo-Nazis or members of the NSN at the August 31st protest, are you expecting more NSN people than that at Saturday's rally, or less? Like, is there, an anticipated amount?
We don't have an anticipated amount, other than to say that we cannot discount the attendance of NSN at these rallies on the weekend.
And big picture, the primary goal is to keep the groups apart. That's top of the list, I guess, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
Will you be doing anything differently this time to last time to achieve that?
Look, these protests are in different parts of the city, so by very nature of that, then there will be different tactics employed. As to what tactics we are putting in place, I won't go into that, but there will be different tactics employed by the very nature that it's in a different part of the city.
And if someone's planning to go to the city, totally unrelated to protests on Saturday, are police recommending that members of the public stay away from the city on Saturday?
No, that's not our recommendation. Victoria Police is deploying such a large deployment of police to the city for the very reason that we are committed to community safety. What I would say to those people is just be aware that there is protest in the city, that there will be congestion on getting into the city. Take time and plan your trip in and expect that it may take longer than it would normally.
Just in relation to, you were mentioning that officers are still obviously mourning what happened in Port Punker. Some pretty disturbing video was released today. How are officers feeling about that? Are they looking into where it's come from?
Look, for mine, I'm not completely briefed on that. I'm aware that some footage has been released. We know that it's not been released by police. It's not police footage, but we will have more to say about that later today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.